Hey, you there. Hey, you like that, you like Pokemon? You like Dungeons and Dragons and other role-playing games? Well, you've come to the right place, my friend, because this is Pokemon Tabletop Reimagined. An easy-to-understand, run, and play tabletop game system that aims to make your dream of becoming a Pokemon trainer a reality. In this series, I'll be teaching you how to run and play the game, and if you'd like to follow along and look at the rules yourself, they'll be in a link below in the description. To start, the normal party size of this game would probably be around 3 to 5 players, though it fully supports play for 1 or 2 players as well. However, each player can only have 3 Pokemon in their party and 1 Pokemon outside of its Pokeball at any given time. While these limitations are very drastic compared to existing Pokemon media, I assure you they are very highly necessary in order to make a tabletop game balanced and easy to run for both players and the DM. This limitation is also put in place to encourage synergy between your party members' Pokemon, group play, strategy, and to place more emphasis on each individual Pokemon's abilities. Today I'd like to help you in getting started and making your Pokemon trainer character. If you'd like to follow along and fill things out as we go, there's a link in the description that'll bring you to the template for the trainer character sheet. Just grab that and fill it out as we go. The first thing we're gonna do is make a concept, make a name, make your character, make an OC. You're gonna come up with a name for your character, a little backstory for them, whatever you'd like. Just add the name, add the story. Doesn't have to be that complicated, doesn't even have to be anything if you don't want it to be, but just make something up for your character. Once you got your name and your lore, we can start moving on to the nitty-gritty with the stats. Every creature in this game, including trainers, has 6 stats: HP, attack, defense, special defense, and speed. I'll give you a quick overview of what each stat is and what it does. So HP is how much damage you can take before you faint. Attack determines your damage and chance to hit as a trainer with things like punches and whatnot. Your defense is the number that a physical attack must meet or exceed in order to deal damage to you. Think of this like your armor class in Dungeons and Dragons, but only for physical attacks. Your special attack determines your damage and chance to hit with unconventional things such as like fire or magic, acid, things like that. If I was gonna breathe fire on someone, that would be a special attack as opposed to a physical attack, which would be like a punch. And similarly, your special defense is the number that a special attack must meet or exceed in order to deal damage to you. Again, think of this like your armor class from Dungeons and Dragons, but this one is only for special attacks. So defense blocks physical attacks, and special defense blocks special attacks. You essentially have 2 separate armor classes in this system. Your speed stat is a lot simpler in that it just influences your initiative roll when you get into combat. Another thing that a creature's stats will influence is skill checks and saving throws. Skill checks and saving throws are D20 rolls that the DM may ask you to perform in response or reaction to a challenge or event that is occurring at the current moment in time. You may be familiar with skill checks and saving throws from other tabletop role-playing systems, and that's great. On screen is the list of skills and the stats they correlate to for this game, so just keep those in mind when you're building your trainer. Now we can start with getting your trainer's stats. Each stat is determined by rolling 4 6-sided die and dropping the lowest number out of the 4 rolled. Once you've dropped that lowest number, the sum of the remaining numbers can then be assigned to one of your non-HP stats. So you can go ahead and just slap that number into any stat you want that is not HP. HP is determined by your class. We'll get into that later. But let's just say you got a 15 on your rolls. Put that number into whatever stat you want: attack, defense, special attack, special defense, or speed. And repeat this process for all of those stats. So you're going to do it for attack, defense, special defense, and speed, filling out all those stats with the numbers you roll on 4 6-sided die. Once you have that, we're going to start calculating your stat bonuses. Now, this is where we're going to get into a little bit of math, so pay attention. For every 2 stat points above or below the number 10
a creature is granted a bonus in that stat equal to +1 or -1 respectively. It's the same exact way it works with ability scores and modifiers in other tabletop games and Dungeons and Dragons. So let's say you had a 12 in your attack stat. You'd have a +1 to your attack bonus. If you had a 7 in your defense, you'd have a -1 to your defense bonus. If you had a 4 to your speed, you would have a -3 to your speed bonus. It works like that. So let's go through my example trainer here so far. I got my character, Bruno. He's a black belt, that's level 1. We'll get into your class later though, don't worry about it right now. He has a 12 HP from his class. Again, don't worry about it too much right now. Let's focus on the other stuff. He has an attack of 17, a defense of 7, a special attack of 12, a special defense of 16, and a speed of 13. So let's start doing the math for his bonuses here. For his attack bonus, he would have a +3 since his attack is 17. You would have a +3 on a stat of 16 or 17. So in our case, attack bonus is +3. Special attack bonus should be +1 because the special attack is 12. If your stat is 12 or 13, you'd have a +1. And lastly, we got a little unlucky on his speed and got a roll of 7, which means we're going to have a -1 to the speed bonus. These bonuses are going to be the modifiers that are applied to any roll in which they are relevant. For example, if your character made a physical attack, their attack bonus would be added to both the roll and the damage of that attack. And they would use their attack bonus during attack-based skill checks and saving throws, such as athletics or intimidation. Your special attack bonus would work very similar to the attack bonus, except for special attacks and skills checks and saving throws that involve your special attack stat. Your speed bonus is going to be applied to your initiative roll if you enter combat without a Pokemon or without choosing to send out a Pokemon. Otherwise, your speed bonus would also be applied to skills checks and saving throws like sleight of hand, stealth, acrobatics, and anything else related to speed. If you had a little bit of a keen eye, you might have noticed the effect DC and the defensive saving throw bonus. So let's go over those real quick too. Your defensive saving throw bonus is the number that you apply to your D20 roll whenever an attack forces you to make a defensive saving throw. This is going to be used for moves that attempt to inflict status effects on you or have a secondary effect. They usually force you to make a defensive saving throw, and the defensive saving throw bonus is basically a little bit of resistance that you have against that. The higher your defensive saving throw bonus is, the easier it is to avoid things like status effects. On the opposite end is effect DC, or effect difficulty class. So this is how hard it is for opposing creatures to resist your actions and moves that inflict like status effects or certain weird effects and whatnot. So for example, if I use the move Toxic on an enemy and my effect DC is 12, they have to make a D20 roll and add their defensive saving throw bonus to it. And if what they rolled is at or higher than my effect DC, then they aren't affected. But if it's under my effect DC, then they get poisoned with my Toxic. So how do we calculate these things? Well, your effect DC is your attack bonus plus your special attack bonus plus 10. So in Bruno's case here, he has an attack bonus of 3 and a special attack bonus of 4, so we add those together and then add 10 to them, and his effect DC will be 14. For your defensive saving throw bonus, it's just going to be your defense bonus and special defense bonus added together. So for Bruno here, he has a defense of 7, meaning his defense bonus is -1. And he has a special defense of 16, meaning his special defense bonus is +3. Add those two together, and we have a defensive saving throw bonus of +2. And boom, that's pretty much it for your trainer stats. Now, just keep in mind that once you pick your class, your stats are going to get altered a little bit depending on what class you pick. But I'll be making separate videos for each class and going over the differences between all the classes and their abilities and whatnot in individual videos for each class. So stay tuned for that. There's one final thing I want to talk about before ending the video, and that's going to have to do with the Pokemon you start with. So I suggest if you're going to have your players start with Pokemon, I would say start them with 1 to 2 Pokemon who have not evolved and are not single stage Pokemon. So I mean like first like basic stage Pokemon like a Pichu, you know, a Bulbasaur, a Krogunk, you know, something that hasn't evolved yet. I would say avoid Pokemon who don't evolve at all, you know, things like Tauros or Lapras, because they tend to have higher stats than weaker Pokemon, and I would avoid giving your players fully evolved Pokemon out the gate. I would stick with unevolved Pokemon that aren't legendary, aren't mythical, but again, this is entirely up to your table. This is just what I recommend and what I think works for the balancing. 1 to 2 Pokemon to start with. If you don't want to start them with any Pokemon, then that would be great too. You set that up in your story, just work it out with your players. I'd also like to make this mechanic very clear out the gate. We're going to talk about this later down the line in future videos, but I want to make it really apparent that when a trainer has a Pokemon out, they share a turn in combat together. Trainers do not get separate turns from their Pokemon. They both share the same turn, they take movement together, and a trainer cannot be targeted by any or hit by any attacks if they have a Pokemon out. The Pokemon will take those attacks. The Pokemon will be the target. You can't just say, I attack the trainer instead of the Pokemon. That's not how it works. The Pokemon all have to be defeated if you want to attack the trainer. And with that, that's going to be it for this video. Now, the next couple videos, we're going to go into each of the individual classes, break them down a little more granularly, and get into what makes each class unique, the abilities they have, and all that. And yeah, we'll cover that next and just make our way through the rest of the rule document and all the mechanics until we've covered it all. Hope you enjoy this little brief introduction, and I hope you got started with your character. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for listening. Thank you for being interested in my Pokemon Tabletop Reimagined. And if you'd like more details or like to look at the documentation yourself to get started, everything is going to be in the description below. I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.